And then there's the more fundamental problem for the Trump campaign, which is that it's effectively at odds with itself, seeking to push white turnout to record levels with explicit appeals to the politics of explicitly white resentment, while simultaneously trying to make the case to people of color that Trump is on their side. Joining me now, former GOP staffer Liam Donovan, a contributor at the National Review, whose Twitter feed has been essential reading for me this campaign. Good to have you, Liam.
Thanks, Chris. I appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
All right. So you had this big tweet storm. The piece of the National Review basically says, look, you can't have it both ways, essentially, right? You cannot go after goosing, essentially, the white vote, particularly white non-college, as demographers call them, and the appeal you need to get them does what that makes it so hard to get other people?
Right. I mean, I think it's a bell that can't be unrung, as you mentioned. I think you're using this wedge and you're pushing on it, and there's an inherent tension there. And I think they appreciate that, and that's demonstrated by what they've tried to sort of reel back in the latest tax they've taken, trying to appeal to non-traditional GOP audiences, and really it's sort of a bank shot meant to appeal to the suburbs that they've lost. So I think their behavior is indicative of the fact that they realize what they've done, and they're trying to undo the damage that was done, and that's just to get back to par. Yeah,
that's exactly right. I mean, the way I think about it is it's a runner who has drifted too far off first base, and now the throw is coming behind them. They're trying to get back. They're trying to get back to the base, right? I mean, and I don't mean the base in the political sense. They're trying to get back to basically the spreads and numbers they need just among white college-educated women, particularly in those suburbs, to be at Romney levels.
That's exactly right. And I think, for all the heat that Jeb Bush took about the sort of the paradox of you have to be willing to take risks in the primary that might imperil you in the general, and you've seen the exact opposite. I think the things that pay off in a Republican primary that we saw are things that it's not that that voters weren't paying attention there, it's that they were, and you're seeing that reflected in Trump's numbers. It doesn't appeal beyond a subset of the electorate.
There's also this. What's so weird to me is that I expected a lot of some of the things you're seeing now. I expected at the convention. And I remember when I first got the early copy of that speech that he gave at the RNC, I thought to myself, I was like, wow, this is the full Breitbart. This is the full. They're really going with this this thing. They got this huge audience. They got a chance to sort of reintroduce him, and they're going with this. I mean, you got to imagine that what has convinced them to try to tack away is just the polling, right?
Right, and I think that's the fascinating thing, is to watch this sort of two-step that you're seeing. You have now a new high command installed with Kellyanne Conway on the one side, sort of sitting on one side of his shoulder, and Steve Bannon on the other. Right. And it almost depends what side of bed he wakes up on, or maybe who he talked to last, because there's no consistency, there's no coherence to it, which is probably too much to ask, because that hasn't been something we've observed throughout the campaign. But it is hit or miss every other day. He's got a new message. He's softening, he's not softening, he's appealing, he's Mr. Brexit, he's hanging out with Mr. Brexit in Jackson, Mississippi. This isn't stuff that plays in swing counties in the electoral battlegrounds.
Yeah, to me, it's also interesting to watch what's happening with immigration is someone coming in and be like, I'm a disruptor, I'm gonna knock it all down, and then sort of slowly learn, like, oh right, there was a reason that it's like campaigns 101, like, oh yeah, that's true. I guess you kind of got to court those voters that everyone's been courting in every election going back for 20 years.
Well, in fairness, he's coming full circle here. These are the things that he was saying even into June. He was saying they can stay, the hardworking ones can stay. He sold a fantasy, and it was a Rorschach test that, he had the bombast for those that wanted that, but he was never explicit or prescriptive with the policy. So he could have it both ways, and now you're sort of seeing where, okay, people don't care about the policy, they care about the fact that he was, using incendiary language to refer to these people. It's more about feelings than it is about actual policy.
But ultimately, you have to have some kind of policy. You're going to get nailed down in some direction.
You'd think, but I think his tendency has been he can't share that with you, because he'd be giving up. He's the ultimate strategist. He's playing 3D chess.
Right, that's the secret plan. Liam Donovan, thanks for your time, and I appreciate it.
Thanks, Chris.